We're so glad that you're here. My next author is passionate about the message of adoption and how vital it is for a dad's role in a family. She actually wrote two books: Adoption Joys, They Expected a Miracle, and Dads Make a Difference, Adoption Joys Book 2. Welcome, Doris. We're so glad that you're here today.
It's my pleasure.
Doris, why are you so passionate about the message of adoption?
I have, well, I have been in as an adoption caseworker for 25 years. And over the years, of course, we placed many babies into families. And the way it started out for me to put together this book, the first book was because I am in YWAM, Youth with a Mission. We are all missionaries and we do not get salary. So we are supported by different folks whom we have helped. So in that role, every 2 or 3 months, I would write a newsletter to all of my supporters. And in each one, I would tell a story maybe of a recent adoption. And it came to a point after 10 years or so, I had a collection of these stories. And I thought, maybe there's a book here. And would you believe, yes, that what brought about Adoption Joys They Expected a Miracle was a collection of these stories. And when my director, Bev Klein, read the book, she said, "Oh, Doris, that is so good. Now you need to write another one from the children's perspective." And I just kind of rolled my eyes and said, "Yeah, right." Well, it was about 2.5 years ago that I was in my quiet time with God, and I felt like he just spoke, "I'm sick and tired of the fatherlessness that's happening in this culture." And I thought, I agree. And later, when I thought about that, I thought, when I said I agree, that told God that I was willing to do whatever. And so by that time, I had at least 20 years under my belt of experience with adoptions and all these families. And so I just thought, okay, they each have a story, and so I just assigned them to just either they could list the positives that have happened because of the dad's involvement in the family, or they could write up a story. Either way, and during the time when I was collecting all these things, every week I would get confirmations that God had other people much more well known, much more popular than I, and they were on the same kick. I mean, there was Focus on the Family and James Dobson and Greg Laurie and Janet Parshall and just numbers of people who were professing the fact that dads are important in the family. And sure enough, even my own pastor from the pulpit on occasion would bring up that same thing. So I knew it was God's passion, and his passion just jumped off onto me. And so that's how the second book became a reality.
They really go hand in hand. I mean, it's a natural fit for
Yes,
adoption and dads being super involved.
for sure.
Darsh, you had alluded to the fact that this is a book made up of stories. Would you share one of the highlight stories with us?
Well, what we do is when we have a birth mom or birth couple who are thinking of adoption, we always get detailed information from them about their personalities and their likes and their dislikes and their talents and their achievements and their medical history, of course. Sure. And that we collect all that stuff and put it together in documents and give that to the new couple so that they will have some thoughts of maybe there are some of these strengths that will fall into the life of the child.
Right.
So we had one particular birth mom who chose one of our couples because they were very strong Christian. Now, they were not musical, but this birth mom's family were very musical. Okay. The mom and the dad were both music majors and met in college. And today, the dad still writes music, and the mom teaches. She has a whole business of teaching all kinds of musical instruments to different students. And so we had all that information. And so we passed that on to the new couple when they adopted this baby. And but from day one, they had music playing on.
Mhm.
So that little baby girl would just it would just get inside her spirit, music.
Sure. Yeah.
And if she was up, it was on the television. If she was sleeping, it would be on a CD. And then fade out, fade in. Here she is, about 8 months old, and the mom and dad are talking and bringing each other up to date on their day, and just talking up a storm. And the little girl is sitting there in her high chair at the dinner table as well. And all of a sudden, the mom and dad stopped talking because they heard a song being hummed that they recognized as one of those that they had been listening to
Wow.
over the time that this child was in their home as a newborn baby. And they not only recognized the tune, but it was on key. And today, that little gal is 21 years old. She has become a musical genius.
Oh,
They gave her piano lessons, and she just loved different instruments all through her high school and beginning her college years. But today, if she just wants to relax, she sits down at the piano and just plays beautiful, soothing music almost by ear.
my
And it just
goodness.
brings joy and relaxation into that home.
Absolutely, and it's because that information was given about the
Amen.
biological parents that they knew there
Amen.
could be an enhancement there. There could be something to keep an eye on, and surely 8 months old, they got a sign that they did the right thing.
Absolutely.
Let's transition to your dad's being involved in families book. We know that God spoke to you and you said, "I'm in," and all of a sudden you birthed the book. Um, why do you think this is more important and relevant than ever?
More important.
Than ever
What did you
before? Oh, why
oh,
is this message more important than it's ever been?
well, right, like 14, 15 years ago, we in our ministry, we placed about 14 babies that year. Well, in 2021, we did not place any newborn babies. And and I thought, "Ooh, okay, why? What's going on?"
Right.
And what I realized is that these birth moms did not have a dad. They didn't have a dad growing up, and
Okay.
so they think that's normal, and
They can do
why
it. Mhm.
why should they provide a dad for their baby? They
Sure,
didn't have one,
sure.
and they're okay.
Oh, gotcha.
And
I
so,
gotcha.
yes, and God notices stuff like that.
Doris, that is such an incredible new insight.
Yes,
That's amazing. And let's talk about the different roles that mom and dad have and why it's so important to have dad. They're 50% of
okay,
the physical and emotional, spiritual, mental needs, right?
okay. Well, the mom's job really is just to nurture.
Okay.
That's all her job is, and she does that pretty well, just holding and loving and maybe nursing that baby. But the dad's job is much more involved. He is to be the spiritual leader in the home, directing that whole family to Jesus.
Right.
He is to be the provider, bringing in enough income so the family can have a place to live and food on the
Sure.
table. And he is to be the protector, and just
Mm.
by his presence and his size and his strength, he is the protector. And then he also very often becomes the playmate. And I
Oh,
think I've done this many times. Just ask different people what they remember with the greatest joy in growing
mm,
up.
mm.
And many times they will say, "Oh, just being down on the floor and wrestling and tickling with my dad."
Wow. And
Yeah,
Doris, I mean, the role doesn't matter if it's a son or daughter. The dad's role He's
Exactly.
teaching each of them something special and unique. Let's talk about that.
Okay, what the dad does for the daughters, they often have these daddy-daughter dates.
Mhm.
And that daughter is just treated like a queen. And she dresses up, and that dad, he just he just shows her such honor and kindness. And what he's really doing is patterning for her what to look for in a man at the day it's in her age, when she begins to look at men, or men begin to look at her.
Sure.
And those are the kind of traits that she needs to look for, the kind that her dad showed her.
Mm. And the
Now,
sons?
yeah, and for the sons in the family, what the dad shows and patterns is how to be a man,
Mm.
how to be a husband, how to be a dad,
Yeah.
just how to be there for the family.
Huge, huge roles. Let's transition. We're kind of starting to wrap up this interview, but let's talk about what people see on the media opposed to what the truth is when it comes to adoptions and families.
Well, of course, I have been in adoptions for 25 years, and of course I believe in it.
Sure.
And I know, God has adopted each one of us into his family.
Mm.
So, like one of my couples said, the little boy said, "Well, if it was good enough for Jesus, that's good enough for me." And
Amen, brother.
and, and the stories are good and positive and true.
Yeah.
And media, I don't know. It seems like, well, put down whatever,
Yeah.
and anything that is good, let's come against it.
Yeah.
And I remember even growing up, if you really wanted, or if any kid really wanted to put down another child, they would say, "Oh, you were adopted," which was not true, but that was a slam.
Sure.
And
Sure.
but I've learned that oh, it's not it's not a
It's a
slam.
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
Yes,
thing. Just going
yes,
back to
and
the
so
media, they almost mock traditional families now,
mhm,
trying to make it
mhm,
look unusual.
yes,
As
and we
as
had
we've
one adopted boy. He Whenever would meet some, he would say, "I'm adopted and I'm special." So
Oh,
I love
that
that.
is wonderful. Do you have any final thoughts before we end the interview, Doris?
Well, one of the things that sometimes people want to know is, what can couples do to get ready for adoption? Because a lot of people have thought about it, maybe.
Sure, sure,
But I have decided that the best thing they can do is to pray for birth moms out there,
sure.
and pray that those gals will love that baby in the womb.
Mm,
And this was taught to me by one of our first gals who came our way. And she came in with her mom. She'd graduated from high school, and then we didn't see her for 4, 5, 6 months. And but I kept thinking about her. She was one of the first I had met. And so I thought, and I asked my coworker, "What do you think happened to her?" And she's, "Oh, she probably decided to parent, or she would have called us." Well, would you believe that Sunday, the next Sunday at church, I saw her and her mom across the sanctuary, and I thought, oh, I want to talk to her, but the crowd, and I didn't get to her. So the next week, I thought, I'm just going to give her a call and see how she's doing. And when I
sure.
got her on the phone, she said, "Oh, Doris, I'm so glad you called." And she said, and I'm so glad that a pregnancy is 9 months long. She said, "If this pregnancy had been 4 or 5 months long, I would have parented, and I could have done an okay job. But I had these extra months to find out what God wanted me to do. And I know that
Wow.
I'm to place for adoption." So she said, "What would
Oh,
I do? What would I do?" Well, I would give the baby a name. I would talk to the baby. I would sing to the baby. I would pray to the baby. I would read little stories and Bible stories to that baby all the time he was in my womb. And then after we place babies, we always get, we are the intermediaries between the communication that goes back and forth from the new family to the birth family. So over the months and years, we got reports about this little boy. He is the most secure young man you have ever heard about. He does not know the meaning of the word rejection. He's in Boy Scouts, he's in Awanas, and if they say go to your neighbors and collect money for this fund or that, and he goes to all of them, and of course a few will hand out something, but many will say, oh, can you come back another time? And he goes back, and he goes back as many times as it takes until they finally come through with the donation. And it never bothers him. He just knows that they're going to do it, and he's going to persist because he does not know the meaning of the word rejection. So if these new couples want to do anything, they can pray that that birth mom will love that baby in the womb and show that baby in the womb that love. And just because wouldn't that birth mom want that baby to feel secure no matter who raises it? If she decides to parent or if she decides to place, the only way she can really place successfully is out of love for the baby, that she wants more for that baby now than she can provide at this time in her life.
So Doris Howe wrote Adoption Joys, They Expected a Miracle, and Dads Make a Difference, Adoption Joys Book 2. We want to thank EC Publishing for making this interview possible. And Doris, I'm sure if they Google Doris Howe and adoption, they'll get lots of information to be able to connect and purchase your books.
Right.
Very good. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.